Wow, sorry everyone.
Sorry guys. Sorry you had to hear me. Rough week. Both being sick, food poisoning.
COVID. Sorry. But we're
Okay,
back.
let's turn off that podcast right now. Click.
Please don't go away. We're alive enough to do an amazing interview. We're very excited because that was an amazing interview.
Oh man, she was so passionate about everything, the things that she's gone through. The fact that she still has a smile on the face for this industry is just incredible.
And the fact that she would encourage everyone. I think every time I feel a little down about everything, I'm going to go back and listen to this podcast.
Yeah, it's like the stuff she's gone through for 20 years of what, Netflix, Laika, Pixar, Disney, going through all that. And yeah, having some troubles that she couldn't mention, but still having a smile on her face after everything.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And for everyone, she wrote 2 amazing articles that I'm sure you've already read. It was shared a lot on LinkedIn. We'll share the link for you on the below. And you can check it out if you haven't, or reread it because it's very inspiring. And the new one is also very inspiring. So we're going to talk about her article, her journey, and you'll get to know her and be inspired by the end, hopefully, like we are right now.
Okay, let's start.
Let's go.
I feel like we should just pretend like we're frozen.
When she comes on.
Just pick a pose and just sit on it and then see how she reacts.
Yeah, since she's not uncomfortable at all already, poor woman.
Hey,
everyone's always nervous.
Exactly. That's how you break the ice.
Or if someone does that to me, I would die. Stop. You have never had that pose. I go through them to find a good one for our thumbnails. You're never like. You're always like.
You want me to do it now? I'll do it today.
Do a good pose. It's hard to find those poses. That could be good. Do you want to have that face on the thumbnail?
Yeah, let's do that face. Let's do that face for the thumbnail.
You're very good. You're backlit and everything, so it's easy to take. But your faces are always boring. You're always like.
That's why I'm terrible at facial expressions. I keep trying to force myself to do more facial stuff.
Yeah, that got rehired.
Okay.
Oh, hello, Sarah.
Dang it.
I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
no.
See, she freaked out.
You're like, oh shit, it's frozen. It's not working.
I really hope that wasn't it.
I really hope that wasn't it, man. I knew that's going to freak people out. As soon as she comes back, you're saying hello.
Okay, yes. I won't be Dang it. I can't believe I messed it up.
It might not be you. It's okay. We'll ask her.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries. It was all Alejandro's fault, Sarah.
Yeah, I thought of just saying, right when she logs in, just pretend like you're frozen.
I was like, oh no. Said no. I said that don't do this, and now look. I apologize on his behalf.
Totally cool. It's totally cool. I figured it might be something like that, but I wasn't sure if there was something afoot, and I was like, oh no, did I break it?
No.
If anything
I just wanted to make you feel comfortable, and I was just like, okay, let's freak her out a bit.
Well, I'm warmed up now, so
okay. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Hey, nice to be here. Lovely to have chatted with you, a while back, and just awesome to kind of get introduced to y'all. So,
yeah, of course.
No, it's great. Sorry about last week. We both kind of got a little sick.
I think a lot of people. I died. Now you're talking to my ghost.
Oh no! Oh
I still
no!
have COVID, but I'm glad that I have enough of breath that I can have this interview with you. I was excited last week, but me and Alejandro just decided to get sick together.
Oh no! Zombie crispy podcasters.
Oh, this
That's a
is
good
gonna
one.
be the episode. Zombie
That
Crispy
should be the
Podcast.
title.
It should be. We're
Yes.
done. Thank you, Sarah, for
Yes.
that.
Love it.
Well, Sarah, we first want to start off with like learning more about you before we move into the article.
Amazing article. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, Sarah Ligatich. I've been in the filmmaking space, you know, as an art form and as a career for about like almost 20 years now, 18, 20 years. I went to college back in 2016, 2017 in Canada, and then just kind of from there started just making my way through like marketing agencies and you know, and different studios. I mean, I first kind of got my biggest break at Laika years ago, working on Kubo and the Two Strings, and then Missing Link. And then subsequently after that, I kind of bounced around at some animation studios like House Special and Shadow Machine, just kind of helping them out on different projects like Shivering Truth and whatnot. And then went to Netflix Animation and worked on Wendell Wild with Henry Selick, and that was just an absolute gas, like the best time. I think one of the hardest times. I could tell you hours and hours of stories of the tumultuous production of that, but yeah, that was a big learning experience for me. And then from there, I made my way over to Pixar. And you know, throughout the whole process of my career, at least professionally in animation, I've been a big evangelizer for the medium of stop motion, for just kind of the medium of animation as a whole. I'm very kind of intrinsically linked. My soul is linked to this kind of art form, and I consistently push back on like executives that tell me that this is like is only children's content, and I'm like, no, this is a medium of expression for so many different experiences. So yeah, no, it's definitely been an exciting, you know, so far ride, and I really, you know, have seen a lot of ups and downs, and certainly right now is definitely one of those gnarly periods, but yeah, I've loved a lot of it along the way. So
Dang, yeah. No, I think what was before the article, I think what really intrigued me about you is I haven't met anyone that's worked in stop motion, and that to me is, yeah, I had to do it for one of my assignments in college, and I thought it was really cool, but to like see and learn more from you is just mind-blowing, because
yeah, you don't really hear from stop motion animators much. It's mostly 3D and then 2D, but stop motion is just one of the most amazing parts of the industry that doesn't get enough attention, honestly.
It's very true, and you know, it's really a shame because it is one of the animation mediums, like you know, it's the last kind of bastion where AI can't touch it, because you have to physically have a person in there touching things. You know, even on Wendell and Wild, like, you know, throughout the pandemic, we had people setting up animation stages in their homes, and we were still pushing shots through. Like, you know, some of these, and it's a tight-knit community. Like, you know, you throw a stone and you kind of can meet someone who worked on like James and the Giant Peach or Nightmare Before Christmas. Like,
great movies.
Crazy.
Some of the people that like formed the foundation of my animation, you know, acumen and knowledge, I get to sit in their presence. And like, you know, even when I was at Laika, like some of those people working on Coraline and Paranorman, and even on like, you know, California Raisins and kind of the Harryhausen days of animation, a lot of them knew Harryhausen and are kind of like that. Or not, yeah, it's Will Vinton. Sorry, Will Vinton. I confused the two. But a lot of them knew Will Vinton, who kind of emulated the Harryhausen days. So, and that was, you know, it's just exciting to kind of sit in that pool of knowledge, and really that's where I kind of cut my teeth. A lot of the animators taught me how to work on 2s and 4s. how to kind of animate my own way and like how to cut my own way. And that's ultimately where I learned how to cut animation.
Is there like real question? So how many pictures do you get sent in to like edit a certain section? Like I'm so intrigued.
Yeah, that's actually really something that I think I wish a lot more people might, hear about is like, on average, your feature film encompasses about 130,000 frames. So we're talking 130,000 boards that were physically drawn by someone. Now, you take that into consideration, but then you expound that over the production time of like 7 years, and we're talking into the hundreds of thousands. Like I think last I looked on Elemental when I worked on that, I think we had close to about 500,000 boards drawn. I mean, frames wise, we got into the petabytes of data. Pixar had to institute new server storage mediums and technology just to hold it all, because throughout the process of production, you don't just go through like a few versions of the film. You go through hundreds, and every single time it is agonized and stressed over by every board artist that you work with, or every animator that sends in layout and their newest cuts and stuff. And so, yeah, I've been the traffic cop for a lot of those movies, and especially even at Laika and stop motion, they are a lot more judicious with their frames because they physically have to print the faces. So, even then you still have hundreds of thousands of frames. So, but you also have like 5,000 to 10,000 faces. So,
yeah,
it's you're dealing with a lot of information. You condense it really small and kind of produce it into the world for someone else to consume. But not often do people get to experience the kind of insane gargantuan work that we go through as people, craftsmen and animators in the world, putting these things out. So
yeah, exactly. It's because when outside people, they think, oh, it's just the animators, they do this little section and they just put it together. They never really think of, oh, the editor, the directors, all those behind the scenes have to take that and then take different versions and just keep putting it together till you finally get the right sequence.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's something that it's like the first thing I tell people when I give tours. Like I do a lot of mentorships and I do a lot of like school tours. Like recently I did a high school class of girls that, brought them in, showed them Pixar. Kind of, it's kind of for a group that kind of focuses on bringing career options for young girls in high school
That's amazing.
that are in the STEAM
That's
fields.
really cool.
And so one of the first things I said was like, from the very beginning of a project, you are literally, sprinting, 30 frames an hour kind of thing per person, per film. Like, so your work that you put into this thing is it's a marathon. You have to pace yourself, but it is incredibly so rewarding, and so beautiful to kind of, when you step back and look at all of it. And so and that's my biggest selling point to people when trying to tell them like about animation and how to get into the medium, is like, realize it's going to be a ton of work, like an insane amount, but it's going to pay off in the end because it's beautiful and it's what you love doing. And that's just ultimately, I think, something that I personally try to just invest in everywhere I go, is just, there's hard parts to the job, definitely, but the positives far outweigh the bad, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense 100%. Because that's how I feel. Well, that's how I felt when I first saw your article on LinkedIn. We'll start going in there.
Yeah,
it was someone liked it on my network, which again, everyone except networks read stuff. You never know what you find. And I don't know about you, Stormy, but your first paragraph in that article about how the day it came that Pixar finally let you go, I was like, we felt the same way. You literally wrote exactly what I felt.
It was the same for me, because mine also came on my LinkedIn feed, and I was busy that day. I don't remember. I was like, I don't have time to click on this. Let's see. I'll do it later. And then I was browsing again, and it continuously came up for a few days. And I was like, wow, what is this article that everyone likes so much? And it's not like they're just, clicking like on it. They were reposting it. That's how much it resonated with everyone. I was like, okay, let me go see. And then, like Alejandro said, the first paragraph, and I was hooked. I was like, okay, I get it.
Well, I mean, first off, I genuinely appreciate that. I think that I am one of the only, I'm as surprised as many people that article definitely resonated with so many people. I think it brought a lot of validation and comfort to me in the first days after getting laid off. Just that it wasn't just me who felt this way. Because I think that's the thing that like makes it the worst is, it was a real bad day at Pixar when people got laid off. That last round of layoffs, those images from that day are going to live with me for quite some time. But
we had a friend, sorry to cut you off. We had a friend that got laid off on that same day. And I was asking him later on how it was. And he said it was a funeral. It was exactly like a funeral.
Oh my God. Yeah. People weeping and embracing each other. I spent the better part of the day just kind of consoling others because, there's two sides to this layoff. There's the 14% of us of this company that we got laid off, but then there's the other people who stayed. There's the people who kind of that survivor's guilt, and I think that's what I poured into the article. I was like, this is like, I don't believe in goodbyes, and I wanted to tell people like, you guys, this is one medium, it is one industry as a whole, and we're all collectively like a family that's kind of going through this. Like, yes, some of us are getting hurt right now because of the layoffs, but I want you guys to like focus on one positive thing, and just to kind of keep you sane and stable, like keep you moving, because I think that that's ultimately the driving factor in trying to kind of recover from these things. Is like Pixar's culture took a big hit, with the layoffs as a whole. A lot of people who were movers and kind of creators of the spirit of Pixar, I guess you would say. Jeff Pigeon worked there for 33 years. He was there since the original, Toy Story. He was a storyboard artist. I mean, he kind of was like Mr. Pixar, in a way. And unfortunately, he's no longer there. And just so many other, just an embarrassment of riches at the studio. So, yeah, I mean, the article itself was, sure, there was a lot of anger and emotions in it, and a lot of my views about the industry as a whole. But yeah, it felt really amazing to know that it resonated with so many people. Like my phone just like blew up for like 1 week, and I was like, holy moly.
Well, it's because I think what you just said is the emotions and the feelings. You actually came out and said it. The problem right now with the industry is everyone's trying to be careful because, like you're saying, we're on a we're on a boat ride right now. We don't know what's going to happen, but that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I want to have Sarah on here because you went out and you're like, hey, this is what the industry's like, guys. It's tough right now.
It's horrific. It's something that I think is, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about like kind of the Animation Guild and a lot of the movement in that, how the studios might, why are they doing the kind of layoffs and where are they shifting animation to like Canada and things. I had a interview with the Hollywood Reporter the other day, and they asked me directly, they're like, do you think that like, do you think that some of these animation shops are going to be shifting, down in animators because they're outsourcing to like Canada and other places, and like, do you think that has an impact on like editorial or on artists? And I'm like, yeah, it's here at home, it's going to downsize, they call it headcount reduction. It's going to downsize a lot of opportunity, and my fear ultimately is that it's going to lead to the death of the entry level worker, the kind of animators and artists that come straight out of college and don't really know the industry yet and are still kind of figuring out what they want to be and what their career looks like. I feel like there's going to be fewer and fewer, if at all, opportunities for them because of things like this. Some of the AI being developed by these companies is pretty scary. But there's so much anxiety about it, and that's ultimately what I do with my writing and stuff. Is just I'm trying to put a face to it so that people know that it's out there, because ultimately I feel like animation just gets swept over so much. I've had some very candid. Oh, sorry,
it's okay.
I've had some candid conversations with with like Bob Chapek and Alan Bergman when they were at Disney. Alan Bergman's still there, but Bob Chapek's no longer. They had a sit down with us last year, I believe. It was like post the Florida law about kind of LGBTQ people, and they were very honest. They're like, we see animation as a conservative medium, but we also see it as a chip on a board. We want to play both sides, and we want to use that. And I'm like, okay, but you also realize you're playing chess with people's lives, right? And his answer was that he's like, be that as it may, and it's it was Bob Chapek definitely had some very candid words for us, and it was a very it was very saddening, dehumanizing, and really frustrating.
Sorry that you had to go through that.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate it. It's just, it's hard to be told that the work that you're trying to do is valuable, but only if it's profitable, and that's and they, I know a lot of animators that worked on Inside Out too that are just burnt out, so it's, yeah.
Well, that's like the one line that I love that you wrote in your article about what Disney said, where it's, we make money to make more movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But now it's not that anymore.
No, it's, ultimately a lot of what you're seeing with Disney is kind of a reaction to what they think people and the culture are. And it's ultimately driven by a lot of kind of older men from a different generation, but also B, it's driven by a fiduciary obligation to stockholders. A lot of Disney's kind of outlook when it came to Disney Plus was, we kind of see this as the better play, and we want people to spend more time on the screen so we can advertise them, bring them into the parks. And ultimately that just didn't pay off. And it wasn't just that it didn't pay off, it's that the content that they greenlit specifically for animation and live action, the live action stuff wasn't 100% good. It was hit or miss. And then the animated projects that you saw are amazing, but ultimately they don't represent the lion's share, so they got quickly shoved under the rug. It's just, and so Disney ultimately they just kind of are frozen in time right now, where they're like, we don't want to choose a side because we have real serious fiduciary concerns worldwide. China, we want our movies to play in China, Saudi Arabia, a lot of countries that have stricter regulations and guidelines for content. But also, we have kind of a polarized kind of culture at this point in time, and Disney just doesn't want any part of it. They just don't. And I think that the hardest part is that, with larger studios like your DreamWorks, Illumination, Sony, Pixar, Disney, their smallest swing is a massive wave in the industry. And so that's why, conversations that they start 5 years or 6 years ago when they start production on a movie are, they go at it with the intention of doing good on like social justice or something like that. But then the notes morph it to such a degree that it just becomes not recognizable, and everybody who was having that conversation has moved on to something far more complex. So Disney they really are having a kind of crisis of identity, and a crisis of, and it's really just the talent at the studios that are paying for it with their jobs, and that's the worst part.
What do you think the culture is right now? What kind of things do you think studios should make that people would actually want to watch? Because they are really missing a lot.
Yeah, I mean, well, I even talk about that in my newest article about the fact that, like, you know, the future of the industry is where the biggest strides for the medium are going to be is for indie studios, for independent perspectives that tell authentic stories. You know, like Jordan Peele, for instance, started Monkey Paw. I was able to connect with his producing partner, Win Rosenfeld, and he was like, yeah, this whole production company was started with the focus of reshaping the narrative of, you know, Black, Indigenous people of color and the roles they play in movies. And so I think that ultimately going forward, a lot of the experiences that people want to see on screen are going to be kind of in those smaller indie studios that can take the bigger swings and take more creative chances. But ultimately, those indie studios will hold the larger studios accountable in that they will show that it is profitable to do this. And therefore, the larger studios will come to them and be like, okay, how do you do this authentically? Because we don't know. Like, even at Pixar, I gave feedback on a number of characters constantly, you know, throughout production about authentic representation, because they're just, you know, I hate to boil it down to just, you know, kind of older white men, but a lot of these studios are made up of people who just don't understand the culture that exists now. So, like, you have a younger middle, you know, Gen X kind of, you know, 18 to 29-year-old who has, you know, uses tons of social media, consumes tons of content on that social media. Their average, you know, kind of retention rate of attention is about 7 frames. And so before they're swiping onto a new thing. And so, you know, the problem with that is that, you know, ultimately Disney and a lot of streamers are just like having to resort to guerrilla tactics, and Disney and Pixar suffered immensely because of that. You know, because they weren't able to adapt. And that's my biggest criticism for them, you know, that I tried to bring up was like, hey guys, you need to really understand, like, you can't use boomer humor. Like, you know, you can't.
It just seems like they don't understand the system of how it works. They just miss it every time they try, and it makes it worse because it looks like they're really trying and they're just really not understanding.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny. Like, I heard someone within the company who works in marketing. They were like, yeah, we'll create the memes, and I'm like, you don't create memes. Memes create themselves.
Exactly.
It's a chicken or the egg kind of thing. But ultimately, the kind of content that people are going to want to see is a representation of their culture and society in an authentic and real way that is identifiable to them. But also, they're going to want to see characters that are well written. And I think that's what happens a lot to these. I guess what you would say is more corporate animation, is that their characters just aren't well written. And so you try to kind of build a character based on what you see in the world. But if your view is limited, it kind of makes it a one-dimensional character with no stakes in their story. And people that watch, you know, television and animation specifically want to feel invested in the character, like Hazbin Hotel and the Amazing Digital Circus from Glitch Productions. Like, those people feel invested, and because their feedback dynamic, you know, on social media is like they're like, you know, they're able to give feedback instantaneously to the show producers, like, you know, and they're able to kind of keep their ear to the ground a little closer than I think that a larger studio could. You know, even on Inside Out 2, they had like a girls squad, a teenage girl squad, kind of come in and give feedback about Riley. And, you know,
nice.
Even then, that's progress. But even then, you know, how do you contend that with, like, you know, larger corporate interests and maintain authenticity? So, so yeah, ultimately, that's where I hope the culture and the dynamic between the creator can benefit. So, yeah.
Yeah, like okay, I'm jumping into the industry life article. One of the lines I really, really liked that you wrote was audience used to see themselves in the characters in the films. And when I read that, I was like, this is true. Yeah, the old films, I would feel that way. And now it's like when I watch it, and you mentioned it later on in that article, and I'm like, this is exactly it. It's background noise.
Yeah.
These new films are just like, I'm just gonna click play, and then I'm gonna, go
Do
over
other
here,
things at the same
do
time.
some other things, but it's still going on. And then I'll like pop my head in and be like, oh, okay.
And I also never go and rewatch them. I only watch them once, and sometimes I even watch them because everyone talks about it, so I feel like I need to know it, and
I'm
I
gonna
don't
call
really
this
want to
movie out
watch it.
Wish.
Oh, yep.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
Good
No,
example.
Yep.
yeah,
Background noise.
Oh God, yes. No, my sister, and so many of my friends who have kids, they especially were like, "Yep, I just kind of put that on, if I need to like get something done or something, because I know my kids are going to kind of like it, but also not really invest in it, and it is kind of sad because I grew up on Disney films, so I'm a bit biased.
Same.
Like I grew up, problematic as they were stuff that like really set my imagination on fire and really kind of made my soul like kind of what the creative person I am. And so
what do you have one in mind?
yeah, so God, well, I mean, the first one that comes to mind, obviously, Little Mermaid. I definitely love the character of Ariel. I love the kind of idea of a kind of trapped character in a world that they don't necessarily. It's like rose-colored glasses meets Stockholm syndrome. Like, you kind of are trapped in this world, and then when you come to the actual world, the real world, you are brought into this kind of new way of thinking, and that actually causes you to realize that you hadn't really examined who you are as a person. I'd like to think that Ariel probably wouldn't, in the real world, probably wouldn't have fell in love with the prince, but
Probably
given
not.
Disney wanted to, given that their proclivities at the time were like hero saves princess kind of thing, it changed that. But yeah,
That movie scared me. That's the scariest. That and Alice in the Wonderland, I would stay away from. I watched once. I'm like,
It was the Lion King for me. The Lion
Lion
King made me
King,
scared.
same.
Oh my God,
Lion King
Mufasa.
and the Jungle Book, both of them are amazing. The way what was his name? The Jungle Book boy?
Oh, Mowgli?
Mowgli.
Mowgli.
Yeah.
The way he would like hop on, like go up trees and hop on rocks, and it was beautiful to me.
Oh, I
I was
thought
like,
you were
how
about to
is
say
this
that
possible?
scared you.
No, Little Mermaid scared me. The way she had to give up her voice and then have legs. Wow. I know. That was scary
Yeah.
to me. But yeah. Good examples, all of them. Yeah. We grew up with these things and now we get Wish. Like, I feel bad for my little cousins.
It's true. I think ultimately, the culture back then was something that was a little easier for Disney to kind of forecast because they had certain expectations from characters. However, now that the society has kind of shifted culturally, and the country has grown into more of a melting pot than it was before, I think a lot of characters that didn't have representation or had improper representation, that's ultimately what they're crying out for. And I think that's why Disney films are ultimately failing, or just a lot of films that are just not failing or not doing good, is because they don't recognize, they're kind of tone deaf to the kind of world that they live in now, where they're just completely ambivalent to the struggles of people who want to see themselves reflected in the content they consume. It's a very real thing. People want to feel invested in those characters, and I even a film that I had worked on briefly for Pixar got shut down basically because it wasn't identifiable to just boys and stuff, and it just kind of turned into this like, well, if we can't tell a story for everyone, and then it can't just go through. And it's sad because I feel like there's a lot of perspectives that just are lacking in today's, in today's culture of content, but also in today's animation industry. I mean, development happens all the time. Like, things like this just kind of happen, but it's sad when you see it happen to your friends because they put their lives into this. Like, ultimately, like even in an Elemental, I brought my friend Himja to the premiere, and my friend Himja, she immigrated here. She just got her H-1B visa, could not be happier in her life. And to see some of the conversations in Elemental that happened, she was in tears because she's like, I've had these literal conversations with my dad about immigrating to the US and like how that's affected me. And just it literally just changed her life. Like just seeing that and that kind of impact. And, some might call that woke. And I completely push back against that nonsense because I just think that ultimately, if you are kind of showing the wealth of people and their experiences in a story in the right way, it shouldn't matter to you like what's behind that. Ultimately, there is no narrative that's like, saying that immigrating to the US is in a story that shouldn't be a controversial thing. It should be celebrated. And I think that like, ultimately it saddens me that it kind of gets boiled down to that sometimes. So I feel like I'm rambling. I'm sorry.
No.
It's okay. You don't want to hear me ramble.
That's true.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. No. Hey, it's okay to ramble.
Yeah.
That's what this whole podcast is for. Like we want to hear from people like telling us how they feel because again, we're in that hump right now. And what you're doing is you're letting others just like us know, hey, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And that's where, okay, well, we're jumping between articles, which is fine.
Yeah.
The industry life support, I think like the first paragraph was really interesting because you were talking about like how can you interact with kids coming into this industry right now that are just so excited but don't know the truth. Like,
either don't know the truth or they think like it's gonna get better and it's gonna be fine by the time they start. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there is that sweet, I call them sweet summer children. I definitely just kind of, I do believe that there is a gaping canyon between college and academia and the professional environment. And I myself fell victim to this a lot when I started. I was like coming out of college and thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to change the world, and bless them for thinking that. Like they're going to do that. They can do that. And I want to inspire them to do that. But at the same time, right now specifically, it is one of the hardest times to get noticed or to get into a studio atmosphere, especially because a lot of these studios don't use third-party software. They make their own software. They want people who know how to adapt on the fly and just kind of use their own thing. Like Pixar doesn't use outside software. They made their own, like their own storyboarding software. They made all of it. And so ultimately, they have a lot of veteran storyboard artists there, and they don't often have openings for new board artists. They have interns that come in and get exposure to those things, but there's no like path to kind of ultimately become like a entry level worker. And so when like a lot of these kind of college graduates like ask me questions about getting into editing or getting into animation, I did a mentorship last year for a girl out in New Mexico. And this is a place where New Mexico, like there's not a lot of film community around there. And I told her point blank, I was like, you have to think critically about, how many skills you have. You can't just specialize. And if you're a visual effects artist, you can't just specialize in lighting like anymore. Like it's multifaceted. You have to be multiple
A generalist
disciplines.
in some ways.
Yeah, a generalist. Yeah, my friend Danny has had to kind of adapt in that way because it's he worked on
We
Inside
have
Out
to.
too. Huh? Oh
Same
yeah,
boat for us, yeah.
yeah. It's a struggle. I mean, it's studios nowadays expect that you're going to be able to contribute in more than just one way. And I found that out pretty brutally when I came to Pixar, that they don't just want you as an editor. They want you as a representative of the company. They want you as an innovator, as someone who's going to push the boundaries of what is possible. Sometimes that's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you're getting feedback, because feedback is and notes are just a common thing in the industry. But the thing I tell newer, animation folk is like, leave your ego at the door. Be ready to kind of be, receive very honest feedback, but it's always with love. But especially right now, unfortunately, that feedback can sometimes lead to layoffs and the kind of losing of your job. So it doesn't feel sustainable anymore as a model for new animation folk. That's why I emphasize like doing your own thing. I think that that ultimately is where you're going to find the most fulfillment. It is, kind of trying to come at it from the side where you're doing your animation work and it gets noticed by larger studios, and then they ask you to be a part of their studio, or then they invite you to kind of interview. But the days of like working your way up from the bottom and finding someone who will mentor you are long gone, and that's really sad to me.
I really hope that in schools, then students need to know this. At least when I was in school, no one was telling me this at all. You get into the industry and then you realize, like you said, oh wow, if I want to keep my job, I need to know like 3 different softwares that I know on top of what I know now. I need like 5 different skills. And then you start to panic. If you have a good company, they'll allow you the time to learn on the spot, and you need to be like quick on the spot. But they'll allow you, or you unfortunately are in a studio that doesn't, and then you get laid off. But students need to understand that you need to kind of be a generalist now to be able to at least hop from one studio to the other because of the kind of market we're in now. And I hope this resonates. Please, students, listen. Go learn our different skills. Do your own animation with different softwares. It's not just about knowing Maya anymore. It helps to know as much as you can.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The biggest advice that I have for anyone, and if you're watching this, like, please, with all haste, it behooves you to learn and utilize tools. Just be an ultimate consumer of content and creative practices. Like, I like to tell people that the software itself is just like an extension of your body. Like if you are drawing with a pen, the software is going to do, you have that trust in that software and it's going to do what you want it to do. But ultimately, I needed to know like 5 different pieces of editor software. Like, I'm a switch hitter. I learned both Avid, Premiere Pro, Final Cut, like 3 different versions of Final Cut, and knew all of them intimately, as well as Da Vinci. Oh my God, yeah. I learned all of it, even Pinnacle Studio. There's things that I pick and choose from everything, and then implement that into my daily workflow. And I think the same is true for like animators that I've talked to, where they know their Mayas, they know their nukes and of the world, but they also know Blender, and they also know like certain
Unreal and Unity and all these things are also on
oh my
top
gosh,
of everything.
Unreal is like, it's starting to become such a big thing within studios pipelines, because I know many people who developed on Unreal in Pixar, and it's so crazy just how wide and the opportunities are. But the problem is that studios are like, yeah, we expect you to know at least a general knowledge, but a lot of this before coming here, and that's a lot. Exactly.
And the other thing I also think is that students don't realize is that you don't need to cater your shots to the studio anymore, because there's so much content out there that is just in order to stand out, you need to be yourself. Make what makes sense to you and is in your worldview, because it's just a lot out there.
Okay, now question for the two of you, because now I have this.
Yeah.
Do you think in the future students are going to have a demo reel that has different pieces of different software all in one reel, like Unreal, Unity,
Because they asked
Maya?
you, on the it's a good
Yeah.
question.
That's what do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, I think that well, first of all, I think that ultimately the work will always shine through. Personally, I think that if the thing that you are really good at is lighting, that is ultimately going to be something that shines through. What recruiters will look for also is your ability to multi-discipline within other areas. So having that in a demo reel is very helpful. And oftentimes you'll try to get feedback at some of these film festivals like Annecy. They do like demo reel feedback and stuff, and take advantage of that, because that puts you on the recruiter's radar. Like if you have a demo reel that's like specific for international film festivals or things like that, like know your audience first of all, and that puts you on their radar, and then that might start a conversation. Like I can't tell you how many demo reels I had because or how many resumes I had because I tailored them for every studio that I worked for, like because I wanted them to know. I reached out to the first and to the lead editors and got to know their working style on like LinkedIn and other services, and went to talks and kind of absorbed and became a sponge. Like I think oftentimes a lot of newer animation folk who come out of college don't realize the gargantuan amount of work you're going to have to invest not only in yourself but in trying to kind of get into the industry, because to kind of contribute to this industry you have to kind of live it. And I gave up 18 years of my life so far. A lot of that has been a lot of long nights and on a lot of hours, a lot of 80-hour weeks, just simply because they expect you to be at your peak performance. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that having demo reels with different software on there is going to be key to that. AI is definitely going to be a consideration going forward, at least AI tools for something like that. But yeah, just having that information just so those recruiters can see it, that's ultimately what will make the difference, because they just want to get you in the door. Once they get you in the door, they'll train you on everything they need you to know.
Sure.
Like, so.
Hold on, viewer, you looking at me? You're looking at me right now? Don't give up.
Yes.
Keep pushing. Do not give up.
You got
Sorry,
this.
I just had to throw that in there.
No, good job.
I love that. No, it's true. Yeah, I think a lot of people get frustrated or get down on themselves about the fact that, like, yes, right now it feels very harsh. It feels very dark. And for the amount of money you spend on college, like, is that a worthwhile investment? No, literally it is. Literally do the thing. Because there's a saying that I have followed my entire career, and it's, rather than planning your next vacation, how about you set up, it is better to invest in a life that you don't need to escape. And that's what I've done with my animation career. Is yes, I've struggled and really paid the price for that in a number of ways, but the payoff is so much better. And I think that that's why I encourage people, like, yes, there's a lot of threats out there. There's a lot of things that like might contribute to the industry becoming really hard to work in, but you have the power to change that. Our industry is made up of people who can change the thing. Like, that's so seriously, I always tell new people, do the thing. I agree with you, Alejandro. Like,
yep.
Do the thing, girls.
No, it's because it's true. Like, Sorme and I, we worked in, Halon Entertainments, and the fact that they just posted up these last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the credits of giving all their employees, like, hey, this is good job on this and whatnot.
Thank you so much for your work.
Felt amazing. And the best part is, I wasn't expecting it for one of the movies, and then suddenly my name was tagged in there, and I was like, oh, cool. Okay, that's the 4 hours I did. I did it. It's like, that's what I want to see, all these new people. Like, again, yeah, that's the feeling. Like, we still love what we do. Oh, yeah. It's just, it's gonna be a challenge,
it's gonna be okay.
That's life.
It's gonna be worth it.
Yeah.
It really is, and I do think that, you know, challenge is and constraints are the breeding ground for creative thinking, and extraordinary work. And if you are comfortable, you're not growing. If you're uncomfortable, you're
100%.
growing. And I think that that's ultimately where a lot of people's mindset will better them, is if you go into this knowing that, you know, you have no expectations, but you kind of know that there's going to be a lot there, then you're already half the battle is over, you know, because you can do anything from there. So yeah, I mean, that's why I am so hopeful for this industry, ultimately.
That's amazing to hear. Sarah, please continue writing articles for us.
Yes,
It's very
please.
inspiring. We all need it right now. And I just wanted to thank you again for I mean, now you have 2 amazing articles, but for the first one especially, because we all needed it. So thank you.
I genuinely appreciate that. That means a lot to me. You know, it's that is my role right now, is just, even though I am sad and looking, you know, kind of outward at the new opportunities for the industry and just for myself and where I'm going to go next, I'm hopeful that, you know, I can still inspire others to create change within this industry, because ultimately we all are in this together. Like,
Yep.
we all are a single industry together. So I appreciate that, and I hope that as I continue writing, or just it just resonates with even more people. So
Yeah. And normally I do this in all the other podcasts, but right here I'm going to put, we're all open to work here. So
Open to work.
look for us, open to work.
open to work.
Well, seriously, Sarah, thank you again for being on the podcast with us. It's been a great pleasure to have you here, hearing your thoughts. And then we also wish you the best. And like Sorme said, don't stop writing. Please don't.
Awesome. Thank you. I was honored to be on.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Sarah.
Soon.
All right. Bye.
We didn't say let's say crispy.
We did not. Wow, that was intense.
I'm sweaty now.
Yeah,
It was a lot. It was nice. It was professional interview.
Yes. That's why
And
I
I
was
think
like,
we ended it well, no? It
we
wasn't
did.
awkward.
We forgot the let's stay crispy though.
I remembered. I just
You should have cut me
didn't know
off.
how to say it. Yeah, because you
should've
were
cut me
saying
off.
thank you, and I didn't want to. Yeah.
Should we just call her back and say, "Hey, can you join real quick?"
No, it's okay. We'll just say let's stay crispy. We'll just say it now. Let's stay crispy, everyone, and we'll see you next time. What was that face?
There was a new face.
I can say let's stay crispy. You say we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Okay. Let's stay crispy, everyone.
I'll see you next time. I mean, we'll see you next time. Just listen to the next one.